Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Chilltown Hoops. I'm your host, Jermaine. The youngsters call me OG. My friends call me J-Dub. Let's get to it. We have a lot of conversation about all-around player and how good the all-around player is, right? And how I feel about the all-around player, the guy who does a multitude of things, and how he affects the game in different areas and in different ways. Which is why if this guy isn't shooting the basketball, or if he's turning the basketball over, how can he affect the game in other ways? I say that to say, if a guy has a bad shooting night, does that mean he had a bad game? Well, that depends on what kind of player we're talking about. So, if a guy is buckets, so let's say we got a guy like Kevin Durant who is just buckets, and he doesn't affect the game in the ways that James affects the game, or Bryant, or Olajuwon, Tim Duncan. He doesn't affect the game like that in other areas. If he goes 6 for 24, it isn't the same as if James went 6 for 24, or Bryant went 5 for 20, or Tim Duncan went 6 for 19. It's not, because those guys do other things to affect the basketball game. A prime example would be Kobe Bryant. In the 2010 NBA Finals, Game 7, Bryant is not having a good shooting night. In fact, it's not. In fact, it's going the other way, and he recognizes that we're not going to win with me playing like this. So I have to do other things. And what does he do? He goes, sticks his nose in there, and he goes and pulls down 15 rebounds. 15 rebounds. James, in 2007, in the Eastern Conference Finals, Game 6, James finishes the game with 20 points. He pulls down 14 rebounds and 8 assists. Now, James, being the scorer that he is, affected the game in a different way because he found out another way to help. Bryant, being the scorer that he is and recognizing that we're not going to win the way I'm playing right now, so I have to do other things, affected the game in a different way. And because he affected the game in a different way, they ended up winning, because without those 15 rebounds, I don't think the Lakers beat the Celtics. Not only do they not beat the Celtics, that would have been the second time they lost to them. So that's what great players do. They affect the game in a completely different way. So that brings me to the logic. If you have a bad shooting night, does that necessarily mean you had a bad shooting game? Well, I think that depends on the player. I think that depends on the player, because when I think about Steph Curry and Klay Thompson in Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals, where I think they went 12 for 36 combined between the both of them. For the game, they went 12 for 36 for the game. That was a bad shooting night for them. Now, was it a bad overall game? Yeah, because Klay doesn't really affect the game that much if he's not shooting the basketball. Curry can affect the game in other ways because he's proven that he can do that. The 2017 Finals against Kyrie Irving, where he almost averaged a triple-double. He can affect the game in different ways. But he didn't. His game was largely him shooting the basketball. And because he had a bad shooting night, he had a bad shooting game. If James goes 6 for 25, but he ends up pulling down 15 rebounds, or 17 boards and 8 assists, he affects the game completely different. When you're talking about guys who are multi-purpose, right? When you're talking about a guy who is multi-purpose and he affects the game in different ways, I think that we're talking about something completely different when we're talking about a guy having a bad game, because I think that having a bad shooting night is completely different than having a bad overall game, because we're talking about completely different players. But I'll tell you somebody who didn't have a bad shooting night, and that would be Damian Lillard. His fourth 60-point game of his career. fourth 60-point game of his career. The most efficient 60-point game in NBA history. Dame has one of those games where once he gets going, not only is there not anything that you can do about it, you have to do your best to just keep the ball away from him. Because once he gets the ball, you have no shot. So not only is there nothing that you can do about it, he's going to keep doing it. Dame isn't one of those guys that's going to let you off the hook. Dame isn't one of those guys who is going to get it going and then he'll get to like 30 or 35 and he'll go, all right, that's enough. No, that's not who Damian Lillard is. He's going to pour it on. If he gets to 35, especially if he got it going, it's going to go to 40. And if he gets to 40 and he's got it going, don't let him off the hook. That's what a great scorer does. And Dame gives it to you in a multitude of ways. He's cracking the long ball. He's getting to the basket, beating up on the big guy. He's cracking. He's scoring in the mid-range. Dame's one of the better one-on-one players that I've ever seen. And we're on the other side of Dame, by the way. Let's make sure that we're clear on that. This isn't Damian Lillard, 2019 Damian Lillard. No. This is, I probably got 2, maybe 3 more years at this level before I start slowing down Damian Lillard. But I still got the goods. I still have the goods. No question about that. Unfortunately, that Trailblazer team isn't very good. And it's a performance like this that is going to go by the wayside because they're not very good. And they're in a position right now where, they're fighting for a play-in spot. With them fighting for a play-in spot, he's going to have to do stuff not like this because, I doubt that I'm going to get 60 again from him. 60-point games are far and few between. He's had 4 of them in his career. He's been in the league since 2012. So he's had 4 of them in his career. That's once every 3 years. So, what are we talking about? I think about Damian Lillard as a player, and I think about this Trailblazer team overall. And when they added Jeremy Grant, what was the reception with Jeremy Grant? I didn't think that this moved the needle for me. I thought that they were a team that was a first-round exit if they did make the playoffs. I had them as a play-in team. I love the way Simons is developing, and Shaedon Sharpe looks like a gem. But in terms of them really challenging in the Western Conference, I think that they're far away. I do believe that they're far away. But I can still marvel at a performance like this from Damian Lillard. No question about that. He is awesome. No doubt about that. He's absolutely awesome. So I hope that Dame can continue to play the way he's playing. This season, I had him playing himself back into the top 10, and I think we're getting close to that. I think we're getting pretty close to that. But a guy who is a top 10 player, who is now back in the lineup, I think, is Anthony Davis. If he can stay healthy, and if the Lakers can manage him the way that they need to, and he can stay healthy for the second half of the season, and they get to the playoffs, I think that they can make some noise. Before Anthony Davis, James was averaging, I believe, 34 a game. And the fact that he was averaging that many points at that age was remarkable. But that wasn't the plan. That was not the plan. The plan was originally how they won the NBA championship. James was going to play off of Anthony Davis. And in the process of him playing off Anthony Davis, they were going to win. And that was working. Only Anthony Davis broke down. And James had to take the dominant space back. Anthony Davis was going to extend James's career. But with Anthony Davis breaking down, James has to play more. Put more wear and tear on him. Which risks him getting injured even more now. I can understand how much he takes care of his body. I can definitely appreciate that. However, with a young guy like Anthony Davis at that time, when he got him at 25, 26 years old, those are miles that are on James that could have been reduced had Anthony Davis stayed healthy. But we're talking about a Laker team right now who I still stand on it with the talent level that they have. I think they're the worst team in the league. I do. But I still think that they have an opportunity to make the playoffs. I think they're a second round exit at best. Now, I know that there's a lot of people that will say, no, nobody wants to see the Lakers in the playoffs. I mean, that may be true. That may be true, that there are teams that aren't interested in them, that are not interested in seeing the Lakers in the playoffs. And I get that. I have no qualms about that, no doubt about that. But they have to get there. And in order to get there, they have to be consistent. And one of the consistent things that has to happen is Anthony Davis needs to be in the lineup. He has to be in the lineup. Russ is playing some of the best ball that he's played since he's been with the Lakers. As a rotation guy, he's arguably the best rotation guy in the game. I mean, Russ is a starter playing as a rotation guy. Let's call it what it is, right? They can get Lonnie Walker back. Pat Beverly is playing the defense and being the pest that he is, right? And now to get Rui on the squad, I think he's going to help them tremendously because he gives them a transition player and a D&3 guy that they didn't have. I think I think Washington didn't use him nearly as much as they could have. And I think with James being a distributor that he is, you're going to see Rui a lot better in transition than you did in Washington. A lot better. And you're going to see a lot better mid-range shots from him as well. So I think that they have a shot going forward, but the thing that has to happen consistently is Anthony Davis needs to stay healthy. If he doesn't, he's the glue. He's the linchpin in all of this. This doesn't work if he doesn't stay healthy. This whole thing does not work unless he stays healthy. So, speaking of teams that don't want to see other teams, you guys talk a lot about the Memphis Grizzlies and how good they are, which I am in agreement. In terms of young talent, I think they're fantastic. Jaren Jackson is going to be up for Defensive Player of the Year. I think Anthony Davis is also, if he could stay healthy for the rest of the season, we're going to have a conversation about him being the Defensive Player of the Year at the end of the season. No doubt about that. He's definitely a first-team All-League defender if he could stay healthy. No doubt about that. But Jaren Jackson is up for Defensive Player of the Year. He's one of the better defensive players in the game. Desmond Bane shoots the long ball with the best of them. Dylan Brooks is one of the best guards in terms of defense, hard-nosed guards that I have a lot of respect for, no question about that. We can't say enough about Ja. Tyus Edney, that's not his name, I'm sorry. Is one of the better backup guards in the game. I dig everything about his game. I mean, I can't say enough about Ja. He's the showstopper. No doubt about it, he's the showstopper. Brandon Clark, one of the better dirty work guys in the game. This is a really good young team. Really good young team. I don't think they want anything to do with the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs. Nothing. I think the Warriors smoked them in the playoffs. I don't think that the Warriors beat them. I think they smoked them in the playoffs. Simply because of the vet leadership that they have and the cohesiveness that the Warriors have is way different than what Memphis has. They're not there yet. They're not there yet. The way the ball moves, not only the way the ball moves, the way that they stay poised. I mean, Steph Curry did get thrown out of the game last night, which is kind of ironic because they're a pretty heady team, they're a pretty poised team, but the way that they stay poised, the way that they stay together, I think that they handle the Memphis Grizzlies in the playoffs. I don't think the Memphis Grizzlies want anything to do with them in the playoffs. No doubt about that. So, but the playoffs are coming. The playoffs are coming, man. I know we're still a ways away, but it's coming. We're in the dog days of the season right now. We are in the dog days of the NBA season, and I'm loving it. So I'll be around, guys. You know where to find me. So until then, take it light, but take it.